The Haunting Hour. Sarah stood before her grandmother's Victorian house, her heart pounding. 3 months had passed since the incident with the cursed locket, yet the memories still haunted her dreams. The house loomed before her, its weathered facade hiding untold secrets. With a deep breath, she stepped onto the creaking porch. As she inserted the key, a chill ran down her spine. The door swung open with an ominous groan. Dust motes danced in the shafts of sunlight, penetrating the heavy curtains. Sarah's eyes were drawn to the ceiling, where the attic trapdoor seemed to beckon her. She clutched the strap of her backpack, filled with sage, salt, and other protective items she'd gathered. This time she was prepared, or so she thought. With trembling fingers, she reached for the attic door pull. It was time to face her fears and uncover the truth about her family's dark past. The attic was exactly as Sarah remembered, a cluttered maze of forgotten heirlooms and dusty furniture. Her flashlight beam cut through the gloom, landing on an old trunk she hadn't noticed before. Its brass lock gleamed, almost invitingly. Sarah knelt before the trunk, her hand hovering over the lock. To her surprise, it clicked open at her touch. Inside, nestled among yellowed lace and faded photographs, lay a leather-bound journal. Her grandmother's name was embossed on the cover. With trembling hands, Sarah opened the journal. As she read, her eyes widened in shock. The elegantly penned words revealed a chilling truth. Her ancestor wasn't just any witch, she was the creator of the cursed locket. The journal detailed the witch's descent into darkness, driven by grief and a thirst for vengeance against those who had wronged her. But there was more. Hidden within the poetic language and cryptic symbols was a ritual, a way to end the curse permanently. Sarah's heart raced as she deciphered the instructions, but her excitement turned to dread as she realized the cost. The ritual required a sacrifice, a life freely given, to break the cycle of pain that had haunted her family for generations. Sarah spent the next few hours gathering the items required for the ritual. She arranged candles, herbs, and crystals in a circle on the attic floor, consulting the journal frequently. As she worked, the atmosphere in the attic grew increasingly oppressive. Objects seemed to move when she wasn't looking directly at them. Whispers echoed from dark corners, too faint to make out words but clear enough to send shivers down her spine. In the cracked mirror propped against the wall, Sarah caught glimpses of spectral figures that vanished when she turned to look. Her hands shook as she tried to focus on the task at hand. She needed help, someone to ground her in reality. Sarah pulled out her phone and dialed Alex's number. It rang once, twice, then went to voicemail. She left a message, trying to keep the panic out of her voice. "Alex, it's me. I'm at my grandmother's house. Things are weird. I could really use your help. Please call me back as soon as you get this." As she ended the call, a gust of wind extinguished all the candles simultaneously. In the sudden darkness, Sarah could have sworn she heard malevolent laughter. As night fell, Sarah steeled herself to begin the ritual. She had relit the candles, their flickering light casting dancing shadows on the attic walls. Taking a deep breath, she began to recite the incantation from her grandmother's journal. The words felt heavy on her tongue, ancient and powerful. As she spoke, the candle flames grew taller, and a wind that shouldn't exist in the closed attic began to swirl around her. The temperature dropped dramatically, her breath visible in the suddenly frigid air. Just as she reached a crescendo in the chant, the attic door burst open. Alex stumbled in, his face pale and drawn. "Sarah, stop!" he shouted, his voice tinged with desperation. "You don't know what you're doing." But as Sarah looked into his eyes, she realized with horror that it wasn't Alex speaking. Something else looked out from behind his familiar face. "Alex," Sarah whispered, backing away as her possessed friend advanced. "Your friend can't help you now." The entity, wearing Alex's face, sneered. "I've waited centuries for this moment. Did you really think breaking the locket's power would be enough to destroy me?" Sarah's mind raced. The witch's spirit had survived, latching onto Alex during their last encounter. Now it stood before her, using her friend as a puppet. She had to complete the ritual to free him. But how could she do that without endangering Alex further? The possessed Alex lunged at her, disrupting the ritual circle. Candles toppled, their flames igniting old papers. As smoke began to fill the attic, Sarah ducked and weaved, narrowly avoiding her friend's grasp. She frantically tried to remember the words of the incantation while dodging Alex's attacks. The house itself seemed to come alive, shuddering and groaning. Objects flew off shelves, swirling in a vortex around them. In the chaos, Sarah caught sight of the journal, teetering on the edge of a burning pile of debris. She dove for it, her fingers closing around the leather cover, just as Alex's hand clamped down on her ankle. Sarah kicked free and scrambled to her feet, clutching the journal. She knew what she had to do. Meeting Alex's possessed gaze, she began to recite the altered ritual, offering herself instead of her friend. As the words left her lips, a change came over the attic. The chaos stilled, replaced by an eerie calm. Spectral forms began to materialize, victims of the curse, throughout the centuries. Among them, Sarah recognized her grandmother's kind face, nodding in encouragement. The spirits surrounded Sarah, their ethereal hands reaching out to lend her strength. She felt power coursing through her veins, ancient and wild. The witch's spirit was drawn out of Alex like poison from a wound, coalescing into a dark, writhing mass before her. Alex collapsed to the floor, free but unconscious. Sarah stood tall, facing the entity that had tormented her family for generations. In that moment, she understood the true purpose of the ritual. It wasn't about destruction, but transformation. "I see you," Sarah said to the witch's spirit, her voice resonating with newfound power. "I understand your pain, your anger, but it's time to let go. We both need to break this cycle." In a heartbeat, Sarah found herself transported to a spiritual plane, face to face with the witch who started it all. Here the witch appeared, as she once was, a young woman twisted by grief and rage. "You know nothing of my suffering," the witch snarled, lashing out with tendrils of dark energy. Sarah stood her ground, allowing the memories of her family's history to flow through her. She saw the injustices, the fear, the cascade of pain that had led to this moment. "I do know," Sarah said softly. "I've seen it all, the persecution, the loss, the need for vengeance. But don't you see? Your pain has become our pain. Your curse has trapped you as much as it's trapped us." The witch faltered, confusion replacing anger in her eyes. Sarah pressed on. "It's time to heal, to forgive, not just others, but yourself." As she spoke, Sarah extended her hand. The witch stared at it, centuries of hatred warring with a desperate longing for peace. Slowly trembling, she reached out. As their hands touched, a blinding light engulfed them both. Sarah had one last glimpse of the witch's face, tears falling from eyes now filled with relief and gratitude. Sarah gasped, her eyes flying open. She was back in the attic, lying on the dusty floor with Alex stirring beside her. Sunlight streamed through the windows, impossibly bright and clean. The journal crumbled to ash in her hands, along with every other cursed object in the attic. As they made their way out of the house, Sarah felt a profound sense of peace. The burden of generations had been lifted, the cycle of pain finally broken. She knew the experience would always be a part of her, a reminder of the power of understanding and forgiveness. The door closed behind them with a soft click. The house now just a house, free from whispers, free from shadows. You've witnessed the end, but do you know how it all began? Uncover the chilling origin of Sarah's curse in The Locket's Curse. Click now to see how a simple attic discovery unleashed a centuries-old evil. The truth behind the whispers awaits you.